The rain was hitting the windows so hard that Tom could barely hear his own thoughts. He sat at his small kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of student papers that needed grading. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he didn't bother making a fresh cup. This was his life now. Quiet evenings alone in his apartment, working late into the night. It had been 3 months since his divorce papers were signed. 3 months of learning how to live by himself again. At first, the silence felt strange. After 8 years of marriage, coming home to an empty apartment took some getting used to. But now he had found a rhythm. Work, home, grade papers, sleep, repeat. Tom taught English at the local community college. It wasn't the most exciting job in the world, but he loved working with students who were trying to better their lives. Many of them worked full-time jobs and came to class exhausted, but they still showed up. Their determination inspired him even on his toughest days. Tonight was particularly rough. The storm outside had been building all day, and the weather matched his mood perfectly. He was halfway through reading an essay about dreams and goals when he heard it. 3 sharp knocks on his front door. Tom looked at the clock on his stove. 9:30 p.m. Who could be visiting this late, especially in weather like this? He wasn't expecting anyone. His few friends knew he usually went to bed early on weeknights. He walked to the door and looked through the small window. Standing in his hallway was Lisa, one of his colleagues from the college. She taught in the same English department, and they often talked during faculty meetings. But she had never been to his apartment before. Lisa was completely soaked from the rain. Her hair was dripping wet, and she was carrying a small overnight bag. She looked upset and tired. When Tom opened the door, she looked relieved to see him. "Tom, I'm so sorry to bother you this late," she said, her voice shaking slightly from the cold. "I didn't know where else to go. My apartment is flooded. What happened?" Come in," Tom said, stepping aside to let her enter. He could see she was shivering. "A pipe burst in my bathroom about 2 hours ago," Lisa explained as she set down her bag. "The water went everywhere, my bedroom, my living room, everything. The landlord says it might take days to fix, and with that big conference in town this weekend, every hotel is completely booked." Tom felt terrible for her. He knew Lisa lived alone too, and dealing with something like this must have been overwhelming. "Of course you can stay here," he said without hesitation. "Let me get you some dry clothes and towels." He disappeared into his bedroom and came back with a soft towel, a warm sweater, and a pair of comfortable pants.
"These might be a bit big on you, but they're clean and warm," he said, handing them to her. "Thank you so much," Lisa said. And for the first time since she arrived, she smiled.
"I was standing in my flooded apartment, not knowing what to do, and I remembered you mentioning you lived in this building. I hope you don't mind me just showing up like this." "Don't be silly," Tom replied. "We're colleagues and friends. Of course I don't mind helping you out." While Lisa changed in the bathroom, Tom cleared his papers from the kitchen table and made some hot tea. He realized this was the first time he had a guest in his apartment since the divorce. It felt strange, but also kind of nice to have some company. When Lisa came out wearing his clothes, she looked much more comfortable. The sweater was indeed too big for her, and she had rolled up the sleeves. The pants were loose around her waist, but she had found a belt in his closet to help them fit better. "Much better," she said, toweling her hair dry. "I can't thank you enough for this. I was starting to panic when I couldn't find anywhere to stay." "You don't need to thank me," Tom said, pouring her a cup of tea. "I'm just glad you thought to come here. Are you hungry? I could make something to eat." "Tea is perfect right now," Lisa said, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. "This whole thing has been so stressful. First the water started coming out from under the bathroom door. Then I realized how bad it was. Then calling the landlord. Then trying to find somewhere to stay." They sat at his kitchen table, and Tom found himself really looking at Lisa for the first time. At work, she always seemed so put together and confident. She was one of the most respected teachers in their department. Students loved her classes, and other faculty members often asked for her advice. But tonight she seemed vulnerable and human in a way he had never seen before. "How long do you think the repairs will take?" Tom asked. "The landlord thinks at least a week, maybe more," Lisa sighed. "They have to tear up the floors, check for damage behind the walls, replace the pipe, and then put everything back together. I'm just grateful my important documents were in a filing cabinet and didn't get ruined." The storm outside was getting stronger. Lightning flashed through the windows, followed by loud thunder that made them both jump slightly. Lisa laughed at her own reaction. "I guess we're both stuck inside tonight," she said. "This weather is incredible. I've never seen rain this heavy." Tom nodded, realizing that having Lisa here didn't feel awkward at all. Despite the circumstances that brought her to his door, her presence was actually quite comforting. The apartment felt less empty with someone else there. "Well," he said, standing up to clear away his grading materials, "you're welcome to stay as long as you need. The couch is pretty comfortable, or you can have the bed and I'll take the couch." "The couch is fine," Lisa insisted. "You're already doing me such a huge favor." As Tom put away his student papers, he couldn't help but think about how unexpected life could be. A few hours ago, he was settling into another quiet evening alone. Now he had company, and surprisingly, he was looking forward to spending more time talking with Lisa outside of their usual work conversations. After Lisa got settled in, Tom remembered he had a bottle of wine that his brother had given him for his birthday last month. He had been saving it for a special occasion, though he wasn't sure what that occasion would be. Tonight felt like the right time to open it. "I hope you don't mind me asking," Tom said as he pulled the bottle from his kitchen cabinet, "but would you like a glass of wine? I know it's been a stressful day for you." Lisa's face lit up. "That sounds wonderful, actually. I think I could really use something to help me relax." Tom found 2 glasses and opened the wine carefully. The storm outside was still going strong, with rain beating against the windows and occasional flashes of lightning that lit up the whole apartment. It created a cozy feeling inside, like they were safe and warm while nature put on a show outside. They moved to the living room, where Tom's old but comfortable couch sat facing a small television. He had candles on the coffee table that he rarely used, but tonight seemed like a good time to light them. The soft candlelight made the whole room feel more peaceful. "This is really nice," Lisa said as she settled into the corner of the couch with her wine glass. "I have to admit I was feeling pretty overwhelmed earlier. Thank you for being so kind about everything." "Don't mention it," Tom replied, sitting on the other end of the couch. "We all need help sometimes. I'm just glad you felt comfortable enough to come here." They started talking about work as they usually did. Lisa mentioned how one of her students had written an amazing essay about overcoming challenges, and Tom shared a funny story about a student who had accidentally turned in a grocery list instead of homework. They both laughed, and Tom realized he hadn't laughed like this in months. As they continued drinking wine and talking, their conversation began to drift into more personal territory. Lisa asked Tom how he was doing since his divorce, and he found himself being more honest than he usually was about such things. "It's been harder than I expected," he admitted. Not the divorce itself, that was actually a relief, but learning how to be alone again. "I got so used to having someone else around all the time. Now the apartment feels too quiet most evenings." Lisa nodded thoughtfully. "I can understand that. I went through a breakup about 6 months ago. We had been together for 3 years, and I thought we were going to get married. But then I realized we wanted completely different things from life." "What happened?" Tom asked, genuinely interested. "He wanted me to quit teaching and move to another state with him for his job. He said I could find work anywhere, but teaching wasn't that important anyway." Lisa took a sip of wine and shook her head. "I couldn't believe he said that. Teaching is everything to me. It's not just my job, it's who I am." Tom understood completely. "I felt the same way during my marriage. My ex-wife always made comments about how I should try to make more money, maybe go into business or something more practical. She never understood why I loved teaching so much." "Exactly," Lisa said, moving a little closer to him on the couch. "People who don't teach just don't get it. They think it's easy, or that we're just babysitting older kids. They don't see how much we care about our students, or how rewarding it is when someone finally understands something they've been struggling with." The wine was making them both more talkative than usual. Tom found himself sharing stories he hadn't told anyone in years, like how he had wanted to be a writer when he was younger, but had been too scared to try. Lisa talked about how she sometimes stayed awake at night thinking about her students who were struggling, wondering if there was more she could do to help them. "You know what's funny?" Lisa said, tucking her feet under herself on the couch. "We've worked together for 2 years, and I never knew you wanted to be a writer. Do you still write?" Tom felt his cheeks get warm. "Sometimes. I have a notebook where I write down thoughts and ideas. Nothing serious. I'd love to read something you've written sometime," Lisa said sincerely. "I bet you're really good at it." "Maybe someday," Tom said, though he wasn't sure he'd ever be brave enough to show his writing to anyone. Another flash of lightning lit up the room. followed by a loud crack of thunder that made them both jump. They looked at each other and started laughing. "This storm is incredible," Lisa said. "I've never seen weather like this before." "It's kind of beautiful in a scary way," Tom agreed. "Makes you feel small, doesn't it?" They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, listening to the rain and watching the candles flicker. Tom realized he felt more relaxed than he had in months. There was something about Lisa's presence that made him feel at ease. At work, she always seemed so professional and put together. But here, wearing his oversized clothes and talking openly about her life, she seemed more real, more human. "I have a confession to make," Lisa said suddenly, breaking the quiet. "What's that?" Tom asked. "I always looked forward to faculty meetings because I enjoyed our conversations. You always had interesting things to say about books and teaching. I wondered what you were like outside of work." Tom smiled. "Well, now you know. I'm pretty boring, actually. I grade papers and watch old movies." "That doesn't sound boring to me," Lisa said softly. "It sounds peaceful." The way she said it made Tom look at her more carefully. There was something different in her voice, something that made his heart beat a little faster. He wondered if the wine was affecting his judgment, or if there really was something changing between them tonight. As the evening grew later, Tom noticed that Lisa seemed more comfortable and relaxed. The wine had helped both of them unwind, and their conversation had become deeper and more personal than any they had shared before. Around midnight, Tom realized he should probably set up sleeping arrangements. "Let me get you some pillows and blankets for the couch," Tom said, starting to stand up. "You must be getting tired after such a long day." "That's very thoughtful, thank you," Lisa replied, though she didn't seem in any hurry to go to sleep. Tom went to his bedroom closet and pulled out his extra bedding, a soft pillow, a warm blanket, and clean sheets for the couch. When he returned to the living room, Lisa was standing by the window looking out at the storm. The rain had softened to a gentle patter, and the lightning was moving farther away. "It's starting to calm down out there," she observed. "Good timing," Tom said as he began arranging the bedding on the couch. "Hopefully tomorrow will be a better day for dealing with your apartment situation." Lisa turned away from the window and watched him making up her bed for the night. "Tom, can I ask you something?" "Of course," he said, fluffing the pillow. "Do you ever feel like you're just going through the motions in life? Like you're doing what you're supposed to do but not really living?" Tom stopped what he was doing and looked at her. It was such an honest, vulnerable question. "Actually, yes. Especially since the divorce. I wake up, go to work, come home, grade papers, sleep, and do it all over again. It's safe, but it's not exactly exciting." "I feel the same way," Lisa said, sitting down on the edge of the couch. "After my breakup, I threw myself into work. I kept busy, but I didn't really deal with how I was feeling. And tonight, talking with you, I realized I haven't felt this comfortable with someone in a very long time." Tom sat down beside her, leaving some space but close enough that he could see the sincerity in her eyes. "I've enjoyed tonight too, more than I expected actually. It's been nice to have real conversation with someone." "Tom," Lisa said quietly, "I need to tell you something and I hope it doesn't make things weird between us." "What is it?" he asked, his heart starting to beat faster. Lisa took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about you a lot lately, not just tonight but for weeks, maybe even months. Every time we talk at work, I find myself wishing we had more time to really get to know each other." Tom felt his breath catch in his throat. "Lisa, I know this is complicated," she continued. "We work together and that makes things tricky. And maybe I'm completely wrong about this, but I feel like there's something between us, something more than just being colleagues." Tom looked into her eyes and saw nervousness there, but also hope. He realized that he had been feeling the same way without fully admitting it to himself. Those moments at work when they would catch each other's eye across the faculty room, or when they would both reach for the same book and their hands would accidentally touch. Maybe those moments meant something. "You're not wrong," he said softly. "I've been thinking about you too. I just never imagined you might feel the same way." Lisa's face brightened with relief and something else, something that made Tom's heart race. "What do we do about it?" she asked. Tom didn't have an immediate answer. He knew that workplace relationships could be complicated, but he also knew that he hadn't felt this connected to someone in years, maybe ever. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I don't want to pretend these feelings don't exist." They sat in silence for a moment, both of them processing what had just been said. The air between them felt charged with possibility and uncertainty. Lisa stood up slowly and walked to the center of the room. She turned to face Tom, and he could see that she had made some kind of decision. There was a determination in her expression that he had never seen before. "Tom," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of playing it safe and wondering what if. Tonight, when my apartment flooded and I didn't know where to go, the first person I thought of was you. Not my family, not my other friends, you." Tom stood up from the couch, his heart pounding so hard he was sure she could hear it. "I've been thinking about this moment for so long," Lisa continued, taking a step closer to him, "wondering what it would be like to be honest about how I feel. And maybe I'm crazy. Maybe this will ruin everything, but I can't keep pretending anymore." She took another step closer, and Tom could see the vulnerability and courage in her eyes. He realized that she was taking a huge risk by being so open about her feelings. The least he could do was be equally honest. "You're not crazy," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "and you're not going to ruin anything. If anything, you're making everything better." Lisa smiled then, a genuine, warm smile that seemed to light up the entire room. It was a smile that held promise and hope and all the possibilities that the future might bring. "Are you sure about this?" Tom asked, because he needed to know that they were both making this choice with clear heads and open hearts. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," Lisa replied. And in that moment, Tom realized that sometimes the best things in life come when you least expect them. Sometimes a flooded apartment and a stormy night can lead to exactly where you're supposed to be. What happened next felt like the most natural thing in the world. Tom and Lisa found themselves sitting close together on the couch, talking in quiet voices as the candles flickered around them. The storm outside had calmed to a gentle rain, creating a peaceful background to their conversation. "I can't believe we're finally talking about this," Lisa said, her hand resting near Tom's on the couch. "I was starting to think I was imagining the connection between us." "You weren't imagining it," Tom replied. "I just never thought someone like you would be interested in someone like me." "What do you mean, someone like me?" Lisa asked, genuinely curious. Tom thought for a moment before answering. "You're brilliant, confident, well-respected by everyone at work. Students love you. Other teachers come to you for advice. I always felt like I was just the quiet guy who graded papers in the corner." Lisa laughed softly. "That's not how I see you at all. You're thoughtful, kind, and incredibly intelligent. Do you know how rare it is to find someone who really listens when you talk? You always pay attention to what people are saying, not just waiting for your turn to speak." They talked for hours, sharing stories they had never told anyone else. Lisa told Tom about her childhood, growing up with parents who never really understood her love of books and learning. Tom shared his dreams of writing a novel someday, something he had never admitted to anyone, not even his ex-wife. "What would your novel be about?" Lisa asked, genuinely interested. "Ordinary people finding extraordinary connections," Tom said without thinking, then realized how perfectly that described what was happening between them right now. As the night went on, they found themselves moving closer together on the couch, not in any rushed or uncomfortable way, but naturally, as if being near each other was the most normal thing in the world. They laughed together, shared comfortable silences, and discovered how easy it was to be completely themselves with each other. "Tom," Lisa said during one of their quiet moments, "I need you to know something. This isn't just about tonight for me. This isn't just because I was feeling vulnerable or because of the wine or the storm. I've been hoping for a chance like this for a long time." "I feel the same way," Tom replied honestly. "But I have to ask, what happens tomorrow? What happens when we go back to work on Monday and see all our colleagues? What happens when the excitement of tonight wears off and we have to deal with real life?" It was a fair question, and Lisa appreciated that Tom was thinking practically even in the middle of such an emotional moment. "I don't know," she said. "But I know I don't want to go back to pretending we're just colleagues who occasionally chat about books." "Neither do I," Tom said. "But we need to be smart about this. Our jobs are important to both of us, and I don't want either of us to get hurt." They spent a long time talking about the practical aspects of their situation. How would they handle seeing each other at work? Should they tell anyone right away? Or keep things private until they figured out where their relationship was heading? What if things didn't work out between them? "I think we should take things slowly," Lisa suggested. "Not because I don't care about you, but because I care about you too much to mess this up by rushing into something we're not ready for." Tom nodded in agreement. That makes sense. We can see how we feel when we're not caught up in the drama of flooded apartments and storm clouds. But even as they made these practical plans, both of them knew that what they were feeling was real and deep and worth exploring. The way they could talk for hours without getting bored. The way they made each other laugh. The way they felt completely comfortable in each other's presence. These things didn't happen every day. As dawn began to creep through the windows, they realized they had talked all night. Neither of them felt tired, though. They felt energized and hopeful in a way neither had experienced in years. I should probably try to get some sleep, Lisa said, though she didn't sound like she really wanted the night to end. Probably a good idea, Tom agreed, though he felt the same way. But instead of going to their separate sleeping areas, they found themselves staying right where they were on the couch, Lisa's head resting on Tom's shoulder, his arm around her. It felt so natural and comfortable that neither of them wanted to move. Is this okay? Tom asked quietly. This is perfect, Lisa replied. They dozed together as the sun came up, both of them feeling more peaceful and content than they had in months. When they woke up a few hours later, the first thing they did was smile at each other. Good morning, Tom said softly. Good morning, Lisa replied, and her smile was radiant. They both knew that everything had changed between them, and they both knew it was a change for the better. Whatever challenges they might face in the future, they would figure them out together. The next morning brought a mix of happiness and nervousness for both Tom and Lisa. As they sat at his kitchen table sharing coffee and toast, they couldn't stop smiling at each other, but they also couldn't ignore the fact that their lives had just become much more complicated. So, Tom said, taking a sip of his coffee, how do we do this? How do we go from being colleagues who barely knew each other personally to whatever we are now? Lisa laughed softly. I have no idea. I've never been in a situation like this before. Dating a coworker was always something I said I'd never do. Same here, Tom admitted. But I also never expected to meet someone like you. They decided to start by being completely honest with each other about their concerns. Lisa worried about what their colleagues would think, especially the department head who was very traditional about workplace relationships. Tom was concerned about whether they were making a good decision, or just getting caught up in the excitement of the moment. What if we tried dating secretly for a while? Lisa suggested. Not because we're ashamed, but just to give ourselves time to figure out if this is real, before we have to deal with everyone else's opinions. That could work, Tom agreed. We could meet outside of work, get to know each other better, and see how we feel in a few weeks or months. But even as they made these plans, both of them knew it wouldn't be easy. They worked in the same small department, attended the same meetings, and ate lunch in the same faculty room every day. Keeping their feelings hidden while seeing each other constantly would be a real challenge. Lisa's phone rang, interrupting their conversation. It was her landlord calling with an update about her apartment. Really? That's great news, Lisa said into the phone. Yes, I can come by this afternoon to take a look. Thank you so much. She hung up and turned to Tom with a smile. Good news and bad news. The good news is they worked through the night and fixed the pipe. Most of the water is cleaned up and they think I can move back in by tomorrow. What's the bad news? Tom asked, though he thought he already knew. The bad news is that our little bubble here is about to burst. Real life is calling. They spent the rest of the morning together and Tom helped Lisa gather her things and prepare to go back to her apartment. But before she left, they made plans to have dinner together the following weekend, their first official date. I'm nervous about this, Lisa admitted as she stood at his door. Ready to leave. Me too, Tom said. But good nervous, you know. Definitely good nervous, Lisa agreed. The next few weeks were both exciting and challenging. At work, Tom and Lisa had to pretend that nothing had changed between them. They would nod politely to each other in the hallways, make small talk during faculty meetings, and act like the professional colleagues they had always been. But underneath the surface, everything was different. Their weekend dates became the highlights of both their weeks. They went to small restaurants in other parts of town, took long walks in parks where they were unlikely to run into anyone they knew, and spent hours talking about everything and nothing. The more time they spent together, the more sure they became that what they had found was special. After about 2 months of secret dating, they realized they were falling in love. It happened gradually, through shared jokes and comfortable silences and the way they could be completely themselves with each other. Neither of them said the words out loud at first, but they both felt it. The turning point came during a faculty meeting when one of their colleagues made a joke about how Tom seemed happier lately, and another teacher commented that Lisa had been smiling more often. Tom and Lisa caught each other's eyes across the room and had to work hard not to laugh. "I think people are starting to notice," Lisa whispered to Tom after the meeting. "Maybe it's time to stop hiding," Tom whispered back. They decided to tell their department head about their relationship before anyone else figured it out. To their surprise, he was completely supportive. "I was wondering when you two would finally notice each other," he said with a smile. "You've always seemed like a good match. Just keep things professional at work and I don't see any problems." 6 months after that stormy night when Lisa showed up at Tom's door, they moved in together. A year later, they were engaged. Their colleagues, who had suspected something was going on for months, were thrilled for them. "I still can't believe it all started because of a broken pipe," Lisa said one evening as they sat on the same couch where they had first admitted their feelings to each other. "Best broken pipe ever," Tom replied, making her laugh. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't come to your door that night?" Lisa asked. Tom thought about it seriously. "I think we would have found each other eventually. Some connections are just meant to happen." "I like to think so too," Lisa said, snuggling closer to him. They often looked back on that night as the moment their real lives began. Not just their life together, but their individual lives as well. Lisa became more confident about taking risks and being vulnerable with people. Tom started writing seriously again, and even had a few short stories published in literary magazines. Their students loved hearing the story of how their English teachers fell in love during a storm, though Tom and Lisa kept the details appropriate for the classroom. They became known as one of the most solid couples in their department, always supporting each other's careers and celebrating each other's successes. Years later, when they told the story at their wedding reception, everyone agreed it was the most romantic way two people could possibly meet. But Tom and Lisa knew the real romance wasn't in the dramatic circumstances of that night. The real romance was in all the ordinary moments that came after, the quiet conversations, the shared dreams, and the simple joy of finding someone who truly understood them.